Is your iPhone battery draining faster than a sprinting cheetah? If constantly reaching for the charger, you know it's time for a life-saving upgrade. But now an avalanche of thoughts go through your mind, and you can't stop thinking about a million questions. Like, where do you even begin?
How much will it cost to replace the battery? Is it worth it, or should I just buy a new phone? Should I go with an aftermarket battery, or is it better to stick with the original?
Well, the original one, it's probably the safer bet, right? I mean, it's the one designed for this device. It should work perfectly. But then, the aftermarket options are tempting. They're way cheaper. You could save some cash, maybe even put that money towards something else. But is it really just about price? What if I told you the cheaper option might leave your device dead halfway through the day? Or actually surprises you? So, yeah, you got a few things to figure out before you make your decision. To make your work easier, in today's video, I step in to help and I present the best battery comparison for you. On the left, I have an aftermarket battery, which is a third-party option. Right next to it is an aftermarket battery, but with increased capacity, promising even longer usage time. And finally, I have the original battery, taken down from a device with other problems. Stick around to find out. This comparison will change the way you think about your next battery replacement, and smash that like button if you want to know which one you should choose. Let's get into it. So, here it is, our test subject, an iPhone 13 with 74% battery health. As you can see, it's not in the best condition. Alright, let's move on to unboxing the batteries and see what we've got. I'm always excited to see how these things are packaged because, honestly, sometimes you get a lot more than you expect. The first of them is well packaged and comes with insulation strips and double adhesive for installation on the phone. The second battery, which is of higher capacity, is packed in the same way, but this one has no flex. It is just the battery cell. Here things are a little different, and to be able to test, I will have to take the BMS flex from the original battery and mount it on it. And finally, I got to the last one, which is the original Apple component taken down from a device with other problems. Well, with this advantage, I'm really curious what autonomy it will have compared to the others. The test was conducted over a span of 4 days, with each day dedicated to testing one battery, allowing for a thorough assessment of performance and durability across each individual unit. To make it clearer and more engaging, I've divided the screen into 4 parts, each showing the phone running on a different battery. This way, you can see how each one drains in real time. All settings are consistent across the tests, with the phone running the same software version and the screen brightness set to identical levels for each test. Alright, here's the plan. In the first phase of our experiment, I'm going to leave these phones on for a whole hour, just like this on their home screens. After the first hour of operation, the battery with the increased capacity has taken the lead, demonstrating its superior ability to handle energy demands. I'm curious if this trend will be maintained during the test. In the next stage, I will leave the YouTube app running on video at 1080p resolution. The volume and brightness are identical, and the same video plays in all examples. The reason for maintaining identical settings is to minimize any variables that could skew the results. Furthermore, by using the same settings across all examples, we're ensuring that our comparison is fair. Alright everyone, let's take a look at where we are after completing this stage of the test. We've maintained the results at the same rate, which is promising, but there's something that's raised a red flag for me. The surprising part is that the original battery, which was at 74% health, has dropped significantly in performance. This doesn't quite align with our expectations. Typically, a battery with 74% health should be able to maintain a relatively stable performance. But here we are, witnessing a significant drop. Over the next hour, I will start filming in 4K resolution at 24 frames per second. High-definition video recording like this can quickly deplete a battery, and 4K in particular is one of the most intensive tasks a device can handle in terms of power consumption. Also, towards the end of the test, I will take the temperature of each battery to see which one gets hotter. Now, why does temperature have such a big impact? Simply put, when the temperature of a phone rises, whether due to heavy usage, high environmental temperatures, or demanding applications, it can cause the battery to deplete much more quickly. This happens because higher temperatures increase the internal resistance of the battery, which accelerates chemical reactions and, ultimately, leads to faster energy consumption. As we can see, this stage of the test left the original battery with 75% health almost dead, and it appears that in a very short time, the phone will shut down completely, and the first position went to the aftermarket battery, which currently offers the best autonomy. The first battery that failed was the original one, and even more concerning, it had an extremely low autonomy. This wasn't what we anticipated, especially given that this was the original battery, and we expected it to perform better, even if it was somewhat aged. Despite the rise of apps and other features, making calls remains one of the most fundamental and frequent uses for a phone. With that in mind, for the next hour, we'll shift our focus to testing the phone's battery performance during normal calling use. Alright, we've now completed 4 hours of operation, and I want to share some notable findings. The aftermarket batteries are still above 50% autonomy, while quite surprisingly, the original battery has already fallen below this threshold. Whether we love it or hate it, it's clear that apps like TikTok are major contributors to battery consumption, especially with their autoplay videos and frequent interactions. With that in mind, for the next hour, I'll let the TikTok app run continuously in all test cases. This will give us a real-world scenario to observe how the battery performs under the influence of such an app. These batteries performed excellently and exceeded the 5-hour threshold, which is a significant milestone in our testing. But what really stands out is the performance of the aftermarket battery. It took first place, outperforming the others by a noticeable margin. Because we have the option to push the limits of this test, I will be filming in 4K resolution at 24 frames per second, but this time using the front camera. Here we are at the second device that closed. It didn't quite reach the 6-hour threshold, stopping at 5 hours and 56 minutes. Considering that this is the device with a relatively healthy battery, I have to admit, I wasn't expecting it to fall short, especially not when compared to the aftermarket batteries. We're still in the thick of our testing, and we're now focusing on the aftermarket batteries. I'm curious which one will offer the best autonomy, and to get to the bottom of this, I'll continue using the batteries in gaming mode for the rest of the test. As we know, gaming is one of the most power-hungry activities a phone can handle, and it's a great way to really push the limits of battery performance. We've reached the penultimate battery that closed, and interestingly, we also have the battery that wins today's test. With an impressive autonomy of almost 7 hours of continuous use, the aftermarket battery with a higher capacity has really set the bar for performance. If you are considering changing your battery, this aftermarket option might be a really good choice, especially when you consider that it's available at a competitive price. This aftermarket battery has performed exceptionally well, and its results have been impressive enough to challenge the assumption that more expensive, original options are always the best choice. So, this opens up a really interesting conversation. Could aftermarket batteries actually be outperforming original batteries? Of course. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm really curious to know which one you ended up buying, as I'm always looking for great recommendations. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more tips and insights. Your support means a lot, and it helps me create even more valuable content for you.